Welcome, everyone, to another deep dive. Today, we're tackling a really big one, a sort of hidden giant when it comes to emissions. We're talking heavy industry, steel, cement, glass making, the kind of stuff that needs intense heat. Historically, that heat just came from burning tons of fossil fuels. And cleaning that up, it's been, a massive headache. Felt almost impossible for a long time. But we're diving into a solution today that sounds, frankly, pretty revolutionary. They're called e-bricks. And no, not your standard house brick. Think special bricks that can handle heat hotter than lava. Seriously. So, our mission today is to unpack this. How is an MIT spinout using these bricks to potentially change everything for industrial heat? Make it clean, make it sustainable. We've dug into reports from Electrek, MIT News, Intelligent Living, quite a few sources actually, get you the whole story. We want you to get not just what they are, but really why this matters so much for, well, all of us.
Exactly. And that why it matters part is huge because these industries, they build our world, right? Concrete, glass, steel, it's everywhere. So changing how they're made isn't just tweaking things. It's potentially rethinking industrial energy from the ground up. The impact could be enormous.
Okay, let's really dig into the problem first, because you need to understand the scale of the challenge. Heavy industry needs massive amounts of energy constantly. It's not just warmth, it's blistering heat, extreme heat. And fossil fuels were just, well, the easy way to get that. Why has electrification been so tough here? What makes that extreme heat the bottleneck?
Right. Well, think about steel making. You're melting iron ore. That's over 1,500 degrees Celsius. Cement needs kilns often above 1,400 C. Glass, similar deal. Now, standard electric heating, it's good for lots of things, but reaching and holding those kinds of temperatures reliably, 2047, on an industrial scale, that's tough and expensive. You need huge amounts of power. And trying to do that with just clean electricity, especially from renewables, which can be intermittent, well, the grid stability and cost have been major hurdles. So yeah, they've been stuck burning coal, gas, oil right there on site, and that means a massive carbon footprint. Seemed unavoidable almost.
Right, unavoidable until now, perhaps. This is where these e-bricks come in, from Electrified Thermal Solutions, spun out of MIT, you said. For what are they exactly? You hear electrically conductive bricks. What does that mean in practice?
Well, yeah, the name Electrified Thermal Solutions kind of gives it away, doesn't it? Essentially, they're special ceramic bricks, a bit like the fire bricks, the refractories, already used in furnaces. But the key difference, they conduct electricity. So think of them like a huge industrial toaster element, but way more robust. You run electricity through them, and their own resistance makes them heat up internally. And the really wild part is how hot they can get and stay. They can store and release heat up to 1,800 degrees Celsius. That's 3,275 Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, the sources keep repeating it because it's so striking. That's hotter than many types of lava.
Hotter than lava. Okay, that sticks in your head. And the electricity to heat them. The idea is clean power, right?
Well,
Wind, solar.
Precisely. That's the core idea. Charge them up using electricity, ideally when renewables are abundant and cheap. So industries can stop burning fossil fuels directly for heat. They store clean energy as heat and then use that heat when they need it. It basically decouples the heat requirement from the act of burning fuel on site, which is, yeah, a game changer for continuous processes.
Okay, so it lets these huge energy users ditch fossil fuels without losing the efficiency or the reliability they absolutely need. Sounds amazing. Almost. Too simple. What were the big challenges they had to solve to make this work? And are there still hurdles for getting this everywhere?
Oh, it's definitely not simple underneath, despite the concept sounding elegant. A huge hurdle was material science. Finding, or rather developing, a ceramic that can take that heat, cycle up and down potentially thousands of times while staying electrically conductive and structurally sound, that's incredibly difficult. Most materials just break down or change properties. The MIT team really pushed to limits there. Another thing is getting the heat out efficiently. Storing it is one thing, but transferring it effectively to, say, a giant kiln or furnace, that needs clever engineering too. And yeah, for wider adoption, the challenge shifts. It's less about can it work and more about scale, cost, and integration. Convincing industries to change processes they've used for decades, that takes time and trust.
Makes sense. Okay, so we know what they are, roughly how they work. But what makes them stand out? Why these e-bricks versus, say, other ideas like green hydrogen for industrial heat?
Right, good question. Because there are other ideas. But the e-bricks have some really compelling advantages, especially when you look at the sources. First, it's that efficient and durable storage. They hold on to heat really well for hours, maybe even days. That's critical for plants that run nonstop. And it's direct heat storage. Not storing electricity to then make heat, which always involves some loss. This stores the heat itself, Plus, they're built to last through many cycles. Durability is key.
Right. It's not just getting hot, but staying hot reliably for a long time. That's massive for a 247 factory.
Exactly. Second advantage, and this is huge, scalability and cost effectiveness. This is maybe the most revolutionary part for real-world impact. Get this. They can be made using the exact same factories and processes that already make standard refractory bricks, the ones industry already uses tons of. So you don't need to build a whole new manufacturing ecosystem from scratch. The infrastructure, the know-how, it's largely there. That dramatically cuts costs and speeds up how quickly you can make millions of these things.
Wow. Okay. That's actually brilliant. Using existing infrastructure bypasses a massive hurdle, so it's not some exotic, hard-to-make thing.
Precisely. It grounds it in existing industrial reality. And third, there's the economic and grid integration angle. Industries can charge these bricks using off-peak electricity when it's cheaper. And crucially, when there's often excess wind or solar power on the grid that might otherwise go to waste. So they buy cheap, clean power, store it as heat, and use it later when power might be more expensive or less green. It helps balance the grid and cuts their energy bills. It's an economic win alongside the environmental one.
So wrapping that all up for us listening, what does it mean? It means we actually have a practical way to clean up some of the dirtiest industries, a way that seems like it could actually scale up, that makes economic sense, and doesn't force factories to shut down or fundamentally change their output. It feels real,
Hmm.
possible.
Yeah, it tackles that really tough, extreme heat problem with something quite elegant, really. Robust, too.
Okay, that brings us to the future then. How soon could we see this making a difference? What's the roadmap look like?
Well, they're not hanging around. The plan, according to the sources, is to actually start commercial-scale production this year, 2025.
This year? Wow, okay.
Yeah, so moving fast. And the target they've set is pretty bold, aiming to deploy up to 2 gigawatts of thermal power using these bricks by 2030.
2 gigawatts by 2030. Help us picture that. How big a dent is that really? Is that like one steel mill,
Yeah.
10 cement plants? What does 2 gigawatts of thermal power translate to?
That's a fair question. So, heavy industry uses vast amounts of thermal energy globally. 2 gigawatts won't solve the whole problem overnight, let's be clear. But it's a very significant start. A single large steel mill might need, say, several hundred megawatts. A big cement kiln, maybe 50 to 100 megawatts. So 2 gigawatts, that could power the heat needs for maybe several large steel plants or perhaps dozens of cement kilns or quite a few glass factories. It's definitely enough to make a noticeable cut in emissions in those specific locations. It represents a real measurable chunk of decarbonization in some of the hardest sectors, a very meaningful first wave. So yeah, summing it up, it's basically a thermal battery made of electric bricks, delivers extreme heat, low cost, high scalability. It genuinely offers a path for industries to swap out fossil fuels for clean electricity for their core processes. It feels like a cornerstone technology.
It really does. That combination, advanced tech meeting practical material science and existing manufacturing. It feels very grounded. It's a major step. Integrating the tech, the economics, the environmental need seems like a win-win-win potentially. Okay, so let's recap this deep dive. E-bricks, not just cool science. A real scalable shot at tackling massive industrial emissions, using bricks that get hotter than lava to clean up steel, cement, glass. It's pretty compelling stuff.
And it does leave you with a thought, doesn't it? If something relatively low-tech like a brick, when engineered smartly, can solve such a high-tech problem, what else are we overlooking? What other simple materials or ideas hiding in plain sight could be e-waste for our sustainable future? Makes you wonder about those hidden connections.
Absolutely. What part of this eBrick story stands out most to why you listening in? We genuinely love to hear your thoughts. And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive, if you found it useful or just plain interesting, maybe hit that like button. And subscribing to the channel really does help us keep bringing you these kinds of explorations, digging into the knowledge you need. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, keep digging deeper. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.